team is actively working on bolstering plans to support franchise in Madden NFL 21 and beyond.
In Madden NFL 21 and beyond.
Sports Gamers Online is the #1 source for the sports gamer.
Welcome back, sports gamers. It's the natural after EA's incredibly disappointing franchise update for Madden 21, or let's just call it a patch. And the community's outrage would led to the hashtag #FixMaddenFranchise trending worldwide on Twitter, and the recent response from EA that they are working on it. We have set to find out a solution, because we don't want to just talk about it, we want to be about it. People not buying the game, yes, that can send a message as well. But if people stop swiping their credit cards through the MUT machine, that will definitely really send a message. But for those of us who actually enjoy playing video games version of their favorite sports and teams every year, we put together a list of improvements that can actually improve franchise mode and not take a ton of development work, things that they can put in right now. Now, just being real, it's too late in the development process to try to rush a major feature or brand new mechanic into the game before release. But I'm going to detail 5 smaller changes that can be added into franchise mode and updated that could potentially salvage the complete cluster that EA has created. Now, I'm not a developer, but I do have IT background in programming and computer science, so all these improvements are potential low-hanging fruit that can be thrown franchise mode's way. The rules of the list are pretty simple. The changes have to be something that realistically could make it in before release or in an early patch. Any major system overhaul or new mechanics are pretty much out at this point, as the game's already in beta. I mean, folks are playing the beta right now. The changes can't require a lot of new user interfaces, as been told developers that actually requires a ton of work by devs to get into the game. And finally, the changes need to add some sort of depth to the mode that we all can agree has been seriously lacking in franchise mode. Getting right into the first one, we'll start off with updated historical stat tracking. Now, that may sound boring to a lot of people out there, but it's been a long-standing pain point to not be able to see the history of your own league. Things like past Super Bowl winners, individual game logs for players, past teams you played for, and if you really want to get crazy, even an injury log to see the history of player injuries. While this isn't going to please everyone, some of the most hardcore members of the franchise mode have been asking for this for years, and it's trying to throw them a bone. Time to throw them a bone for Madden 21. This shouldn't be too hard because there are no new user interfaces to worry about. It's more so adding new pages to already established areas. You can put the game logs and other player information under the player contract and the details section when you click on a player. The Super Bowl history could be put in the stats and records section, again with no real user interface changes, just adding another page to an already established setup. Moving on to number 2, more disgruntled player scenarios. We actually were told this was coming to the game last year, but it never made it in. Things like a player demanding a trade, threatening a holdout, wanting a new contract, or a locker room's reaction to a player demotion. These are the kind of depth additions that make going multiple seasons inside of franchise mode worthwhile. Currently, with the dev stories, all we get is breakout stories or players saying they're not being used enough, and you can pretty much tell them to go F off, and it's not much detriment to your whole entire team. But this fix can include simple dialogue boxes on the front end, which make them easy in principle to add, but the mechanics are what happens with the choices and where it gets slightly more complicated. Take a player wanting a new contract. This can be triggered in the preseason for a player coming off a big year. The question is, do you negotiate with the player or do you choose not to negotiate? There should be some form of fashion where something happens when you franchise tag someone. There has to be a downside and negative. In Madden, you can just franchise tag anyone with no negative results. Now, in real life, players get pissed off when you don't negotiate a contract, don't give them the money they want, and just tag them. There should be something, on the field, something where they hold out, something that happens where it's a risk you take when you franchise tag someone. So in these type of contract disputes, if you choose to negotiate, All they have to do is populate it in the resign area when you open resigns in week 3. And the fact that you're willing to negotiate with the player should make other players more likely to want to renegotiate as well, or impact the morale of other players. On the other hand, if you tell them you won't negotiate, the player could lose morale, refuse to sign in the future, and could affect their on-field performance when they get out on the field. If they eventually do play, it'll drop the morale or have some kind of effect where the contract translates some performance on the field. While this is just an example of a way to approach one of these scenarios, the same idea applies to leverage current menus and add depth to it. Number 3, longer draft board visibility. This is a massive pet peeve that I've struggled to understand for a couple of years. After the draft board disappears in week 3, why does it ever go away until the draft? As it currently stands, it disappears for the playoffs and doesn't reappear until free agency stage 2. The idea we are supposed to bid on the most important round of free agents without knowing or remembering what the draft may hold at this position is just silly. This one's pretty simple. Don't hide it in Madden 21. Once it opens, the draft board should stay open until the draft. Teams just don't stop thinking about draft picks while the playoffs and things are going on. They're still doing their research. Not everyone's in the playoffs, so teams that are not in the playoffs should still have things to do on a week-to-week basis. You don't even have to give additional scouting points during this week. Just don't hide it or take it away. You want to give people more things to do every single week. Next one is hiding free agent bids. This one could be universally hailed as a massive upgrade. Don't get me wrong, the entire system needs to be stripped down and rebuilt, but a simple change here go a long way in making the community happy. The idea that a player can bid on a free agent and not only know exactly how the values that he bid, but also see all the other bids and how those are valued is nuts. That's just not how it works in real life. This simply leads to people walking bids up until they are all but pretty much guaranteed to win the player. Just creates this huge bidding war. Well, in real life, the other team doesn't know what another team is bidding unless that player, tells them, or the player can put teams against each other. But there's no board to say, all right, well, the Bills are coming in with $5 million. All right, we're gonna make it 6, and then next week, they're coming with 8. We're gonna make it 9. Like, it's just such a video gamey way to deal with it, and it's just silly. Like, you should a lot of things should go into that. The fact that not just money, it should be other things valued. And a lot of the other franchise games, MLB The Show, NBA 2K, there's different things that they value. Location, what they want to play, your team is a winner or not a winner, they want to play for that coach, what type of emotions or attitude does that player have, what's their personality. All these things that factor into it, not just who can throw the most dollars or who has the the coaching thing unlocked for that player position. It's just pretty silly. It's a relatively simple fix, but impactful. Just don't show the bids. That's, the system needs to be totally rebuilt, but a quick fix is just don't show the bids. When a user bids on the player, they place the bid, and after that screen they're used to give the score simply gives feedback that the bid is competitive bid or not a competitive bid. Competitive could mean top bid, or it could mean within a certain range of the top bid. Once you get back to the free agent screen, all you see is the number of teams bidding, not who those teams are or the order in which the free agent values the bids. By doing this, you add more strategy and excitement to a pretty mundane function of this mode. And last but not least, in franchise scrimmages. Maybe breaking the rules a little bit with this one, as I don't know the full complexities of what it would take to get this into Madden 21. But here's the thing, after your game is played each week and scouting and re-signs are done, you have no reason to be inside your franchise. For the online franchise community, the ability to link up with other people inside your franchise and play practice games with them would be a huge deal for a lot of people. This one I think could be a total game changer for the online franchise community, because right now you just load up in practice mode and you can practice, but you can't export it anywhere. You can't export to another mode. You can't take it out of that individual online CFM. You can't play other people. You can't go online and play the people with your team. You're just so limited. You're just locked into that. All you can do is play your game and practice. There's nothing else you can do with your team. And everyone knows the practice mode is not a great representation of the real game, because the defensive line and defense just plays crazy a lot of times in practice mode. They are just super geeked up. So it doesn't always give you a correct representation of how the game actually plays on the field when you play on Sundays. But this change would be housed inside of the practice screen, similar to how free practice is now, where you normally choose your normal offense, special teams. There will be a scrimmage section, and when you click on scrimmage, a selector pops up to choose your opponent. An invite will be sent just like a normal game. It will be using the league settings with the game taking place on the practice field instead of a stadium. And that's pretty much it. I'm not sure how tough that would be to put that one into the game, but I think it would be a great addition and something you could do a little bit more inside your franchise instead of just play your games and practice by yourself. So those are the 5 quick changes we have to Salvage franchise mode in Madden 20. What are yours? Let me know what they are in the comments below. If you enjoy our content here at SGL, like, subscribe for more news, reviews, and tips from your favorite sports games. Want to take your game to the next level? Join us on Patreon and become an SGL Insider today.